So today we've had some pretty incredible cloud inversions on the Isle of Man. They've shrouded most of the coastline of the island in this deep, thick layer of mist. The conditions have been absolutely incredible for landscape photography. Typically I've been in work though, so yeah, that sucks. However, I've come home now, it's the early evening, and I've had a bit of a light bulb moment. I'm going to head back to a local lighthouse that I visited a few months ago, where I captured some nice long exposure shots of the night sky above the lighthouse. And I'm going to try and capture that same composition, but this time I'm going to try and pick up some of the beams being emitted by the lighthouse in the actual fog-filled air. I think this could work quite effectively, particularly if I try and go for an almost 360 effect around the top of the lighthouse. So let's get going. So I've arrived at the Point of Air lighthouse finally, and unsurprisingly there's no one else here, because no one else is probably as stupid as I am to come to a location like this on a night like this. It's bleak out there. It's very, very bleak. Actually, on the drive down here, there was large parts of the journey where the mist was largely not present at all. And I actually thought, am I going to get the conditions I wanted? But as I got closer to the lighthouse, the fog really thickened up. And now down here, it's like pea soup. It's ridiculous. Combine that with the really cold temperatures outside, and you've got really horrendous conditions here. Perfect for the shot though. On pretty much every astrophotography shoot I go on, you can pretty much guarantee, without exception, that you'll always be joined by mysterious other cars. Doesn't matter how remote the car park is, it doesn't matter what time of night, there'll always be mysterious cars. Now, perhaps there are other photographers just like me, but my mind doesn't tend to work that way, and I've had some incidences in the past where a little bit of the headlight flashing has been going on. So it's only a matter of time before a car comes and ruins this trip as well. So far it hasn't happened, so fingers crossed it stays that way. I finally braved the cold and got my shots, and I have to say it's very difficult to judge whether it's been a success or not. It's only going to be when I take this back to post-processing that I'm going to be able to tell whether this was worth it or not. On the face of it, the shot would seem quite easy to get, but it really isn't. If I talk you through my settings and my approach, you might get a better appreciation for how difficult this is. I would say this is one of the most difficult shots that I've had a go at in quite some time, actually. Now, essentially, the big problem I've got is with trying to capture the lighthouse beams is that does not favour a long shutter speed at all, because the light moves too much and too quickly in a long shutter speed to be able to capture that finite beam in the air. You'll just get a blurry mess around the top of the lighthouse. So that's the problem there. But the problem is, as you reduce your shutter speed, then you're not going to expose for the actual image overall properly either, without bumping the ISO through the roof and bringing lots of noise to the image. So essentially the approach I've taken is to actually create a composite of different exposures. Now, I've got a baseline shot, which I've shot at f2.8, ISO 1250. 14mm at a shutter speed of about 10 seconds. Now this gives me quite a low level of noise and quite a nice baseline image, giving nice amount of detail in the lighthouse and the outbuildings around it. And then essentially what I've done is I've shot a series of other images which I hope to put on top of this. Now the other images are again shot f2.8 14mm, but this time I dropped the shutter speed down to 1.6 seconds and blasted the ISO up to 4000. Now what this will do is allow me to capture those beams of light in the air, but the only downside to that is I'm going to get a bit more noise. But I factored that because I'm only actually interested in those beams of light in those images, that the noise actually won't matter all that much. Now the other problem I've got is to get the 360 spinning lights round the top of the lighthouse. It's all a question of timing. So essentially the approach I've taken is to take as many photos as I can of the lights going around the top of the lighthouse, and I'm hoping that when I look in them in post-processing, kind of like putting a jigsaw together, I'll be able to line them up to give that beautiful 360 effect around the top. So I'm sure you've had enough of me stood around in the dark in this stupid hat, so I think it's time to call it a day. I'm absolutely frozen. The conditions out here are terrible, so I'm looking forward to getting home and getting stuck into the post-processing. It's quite rare that you go on shoots like this and you really have absolutely no idea whether you've succeeded or not, but that is the case with this one. I really can't tell you whether I've succeeded or not, so fingers crossed. Wait till the end of this video, see if the image turns out nicely or not. In any case, subscribe to my channel and I will see you next week.